All right, everyone, welcome to this YouTube video. So in this video, we're going to just it's going to be an about me video. We're just going to discuss my training, my background, my work background, educational background, and why it is that I chose to start a website, to start a business. So just kind of getting started into it, I decided just to take a bunch of training that I did the other day and just do a voiceover with that because I figured it would be a lot more interesting than to see me pacing back and forth, just kind of talking into a camera. So this will give you something to look at while I just kind of go through and explain everything. So let's get started. So my training background starts with bodybuilding. I started back in 2006. I was probably about 13 years old, and I mean, I just started with that, and I just did that for about 5 to 6 years, and it was just me reading books, a bunch of trial and error, um, really no guidance. It was just like me in a little metal barn going at it, right? And it's like things got stupid back then too, and that's probably a story for another day. But we'll just say, yeah, background started with bodybuilding. And so then when I got to college, and that college was like 2012, um, things started getting a little bit more serious in the direction of powerlifting. So I was more foc more focused on maxing out, lifting your heavier weights, learning how to program. Because at that point I was of the realization it's like, oh, not everyone's in here training for like 10 hours or 8 hours or something. Like I was doing stupid long training times. While also trying to like work and, do the whole school thing. But for college, for me at least, uh, it was just a very expensive gym membership. So that's gym is still kind of what I did, but I managed to go from like 10 or 8 hour workouts and drag it down to like 4 hour workouts. Still, pretty long, but that's just kind of like what I did. That was the style. Um, so yeah, from that point, I got started getting into powerlifting, started competing. Um, where I started with the USAPL first, and just kind of like as I did a few of those, I went into the ADFPF. Managed to set we'll say quote unquote world record. Um, it's not like the best world record, but it's just like for that federation and their world's league, there was a world record set, yeah. And then I was in the deadlift. I think it was like a single event at 771. And then we also did a couple international competitions. That's where other countries were competing at the contest. So the first one we went to was in Boston, and the second one we went to the year after that was in Glasgow, and we went as like a we all went together as like a team from a gym to Boston, so that was a cool experience. And then a few of us went later to Glasgow, but that was a little bit more expensive because it was abroad. Um, but it's definitely worth it if you have the opportunity to like compete at an international level or go abroad or anything. Yeah, for sure do it. Um, it's a very valuable experience. You learn quite a bit. And it's always fun to like travel and have a little mini vacation and you get to lift weights on it. Like that's always a good thing. So yeah, so powerlifting for me, that lasted about a few years after college, about 4 years, 6 years after college. Um, I would say definitely the height of it, the the most high level contests that I've done were those international ones. The best one, the one I did my absolute best on, was just before COVID happened. I think it was in the Missouri, it was the Missouri USPA state meet or something like that. It was down at Brentwood Barbell. So the best total I put up that was the best total I put up actually. It was 1747 pounds. So I think it was like 608, 608, 606 squat. This was with the wraps. So it's classic raw division at 220. Um, and then a bench press of like 382, 385. And then the deadlift, I believe, was like a 761 or 771. So it's a little fuzzy because this was a while ago. I think I have videos of it from somewhere. You could probably go on Instagram and find them. I think it was like 2020-ish is when that happened. But yeah, that was my last powerlifting meet. Because after that, I started getting real serious into strongman. But it wasn't like, oh, you just went to that end and then did strongman. But it was more like before I was doing strongman and powerlifting like before. I started doing strongman in 2015 and powerlifting was like 2012. But strongman for me, while I was doing powerlifting, like powerlifting was like what I was doing, and then strongman was just kind of like the next thing. Like you would do it, but after 2 weeks after your powerlifting meet, you would just go, mess around in a strongman contest. It really wasn't serious, or at least at that point. And then so after that last meet, the one right before COVID, I started getting ready for USS Nationals in strongman. And so that's when things got really serious because I just went like all in, right? And then something just like that danger flip the switch thing got turned on, and I was just like all in, and I could not get out and get excited for powerlifting anymore. And it's just kind of been that way since, where it's just like I literally tried to do a powerlifting contest with my nemesis like last December, and I mean there was a couple other things that went on that was just like, okay, you can't do this anymore. But one of them that definitely went into it is just like this isn't really fun anymore. Like it's just kind of like job, and I'm not really excited, and there's no real sense of danger or anything here, right? It's just kind of stale. And then I'm like, okay, yeah, I think I'm chasing strongman for a little bit now. So that was kind of like the decider there. I'll probably end up back in powerlifting one day, who's to know? But for right now, it's just like the juice isn't worth the squeeze for me. Like just mentally, it's just not as exciting. So I'm just kind of like doing my own thing and sticking to a strongman contest in terms of contest. Um, so the highest level of contest I've done with strongman is two USS Nationals that I've went to, and they had the Expo, which was competing in like the pro class. So you're just competing against some top level people. I would say those three are the highest levels that I've been to in strongman so far. Um, there's all the intention of like going to OSG and like getting that, giving a shot at that. So, but that's later down the years. We'll see if that even happens. So yeah, just a quick recap. But then on strongman, I've done probably 32 or more competitions. I do those pretty frequently. And then powerlifting, I've probably done, I know it's been more than 20. Um, but with powerlifting, there's a few like single events and stuff in there, so that's how that number's a little bit higher. But typically, I always found that like I could do powerlifting like 3 or 4 times a year, but like strongman, I could just knock those out of the park. It was like training; those are like training days for me. Yeah, so that's kind of like where the training part's at. So going into the educational part, so I got my bachelor's degree in exercise science. Um, that was at SIUE in Edwardsville. And then there was a break period there where I just went off to work. And I think that break period was like 4 years. And then I came back and then got my graduate's degree in exercise physiology. And so I was talking about the degrees a little bit, just so you kind of understand where it was at. The bachelor's degree was, it's kind of like an umbrella, right? They taught you a lot about kind of everything in terms of exercise. It wasn't really specialized towards any one thing, but if it was specialized towards the physical therapy route, right? Because that's at that point I was like, yeah, I'm going to go do rehab and become a physical therapist and learn how to train forever and fight off all these nagging injuries because I had already had a few nagging injuries at that point. Um, so then after doing my internship with physical therapists, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go look at other things. Let's go try some other things because I don't think physical therapy is for me, right? Because it was mostly just like office job and sitting down and not moving a whole lot, right? So then after doing that, I went to go off to work. I would go off to work at like a few personal training studios. One of them in particular, I think two of them were like just general populations. You were just grabbing anyone who'd come in. Most of them was like general pop stuff, like the whole lose weight, get stronger, um, the boring stuff like that. And then one of them was a sports performance clinic. And so at this place, like the practice seemed a little shady to me, but what they would kind of market themselves on was that they would take high school and kind of like about to enter college age people, like our athletes, I guess, and they would try to train them to get into that D1 scholarship area. And the idea was basically like, yeah, invest in your kids' athletic prowess, and you don't have to. They get a full ride in college, right? And that's kind of like what they were like selling everyone on. So that's what we trained them to do. We trained them to get to D1. And again, it's like, I don't know that you could like should market like that, but it's like, all right, wasn't my business. I was just, helping the dude run it. Um, Yeah, so we learned a lot there about sports performance and just kind of like the application of physics to exercise. It was quite an interesting experience. Um, but that lasted for about 3 years, and that's when I went back to get my graduate degree. So then, after I got my graduate degree, or during, we'll say during, let's talk about what I did actually did as a graduate. So in the graduate program, that was kind of just like to fill in the holes of what I learned as a bachelor. So in the bachelor's degree, it said a lot of things. They introduced you to a lot of things, but it never really like it felt like it was always an incomplete thought or didn't complete everything fully. So then the master's degree felt like it definitely did that. Like it came, it's like, yeah, you're like this Jedi Padawan who hasn't completed your training. And then you go back, you get your graduate's degree, and it's like, okay, now you've completed your training. You're an exercise physiologist now. That's what that was like, right? I mean, for lack of better words and putting it into more relatable terms, it's like, there you go, right? Um, so that's kind of what that was. And one of the jobs I had to do there, because they paid me to go to school. It wasn't like, oh, we're going to go into more debt. It was like, no, it was a job as well as getting the graduate's degree. I had to do exercise courses. Like we had to program exercise and implement it and teach it to like classrooms. And so we did classes for these college kids, and we were basically just teaching them how to do weights. It was just kind of like, okay, most of you've never been in a weight room or don't know anything, so we would just go in there and teach them. And one of the things I did is we'd have all semester, it'd be 3 months. So we'd just go in there, we'd do like a baseline strength testing, and then we'd be like, okay, so here's where you're at, and now we're going to make some goals, and now we're going to try to get those goals in 3 months. And everyone was like, what? And it was always fun to see like how far you could like progress them in 3 months. I mean, everything safely. It wasn't like crazy because the class only lasted like an hour. It was like 3 days a week, so you're putting in 3 hours a week, sort of thing. But yeah, it was a fun. That was a fun little time. All right, so now going back to after graduate school. So after graduate school, I went to go work at Max Effort Strength and Conditioning, and I actually interned there while as a graduate assistant, right? And so what we did there, it was so Max Effort is a powerlifting gym out in St. Louis, and I was under the mentorship of Steve Welch. And so he's had like 25 years of strength and conditioning, weightlifting, performance type experience, right? So this guy's had that much under his, I think it's more than that actually, under his belt. And so he was teaching it to me, right? And so that's where I mean, I learned quite a bit about like programming and just like the skill and the craft from him. And I was there like after I got my graduate degree, I was there for 5 years. And so it was just like kind of like 5 years of that. Um, but unfortunately, after those 5 years, I had to quit and kind of just move on because, I'm a husband and a father, and those things kind of come before a job. Life happens, and it was just kind of an unfortunate situation, but it possibly leads us to better, I guess, better circumstances. It's probably just meant to be. I don't know. It's a sad time, but it's probably for the best, I suppose. Um, so yeah, so that sums up my training, kind of like training journey background, I suppose. It covers up my teaching and kind of work experience. So now you kind of have a little bit of like, what I've been doing for most of my life, right? Like since I was 13, it's like, this is what I've been doing. It's basically just like, how do we put exercise together and get jacked? Like that's basically it. So that brings me into why do I want to start Muscle Model? Like, why do I want to make this thing work and see it thrive and grow? So basically, um, other than being a, a husband and a father, I'm a disciple of Jesus Christ, and we're going to be talking about him a lot. He is welcomed here, right? So this exercise stuff that I've been given, I kind of see it as a gift, right? I didn't always see it as this is just something I do, right? And that's kind of like in some ways it's now even I don't really know why I do what I do. I just kind of do it. Um, but looking at it from that attitude, it's like this is a gift that's been given to you, right? And it's just all this knowledge and experience and everything that you've put together. I talk to people like I'm not, that's the other thing. I love talking about exercise, right? I won't shut up about it. And so I'm like, okay, so you have this gift and this seeming passion, and you're just kind of sitting on it. It's not really being put to work, right? And I would very much like to put this to work because that's a Christian tenet. Like you don't take your gifts and you squander them or hide them. You go and you put them to work, right? So that's kind of what's being done here. Because the more I just kind of sit with myself and I'm just like, doing my own thing and training and not doing anything with it or not putting my assets to work, I'm just like, yeah, that's not right. It just doesn't sit well with me anymore. So the number one goal with this is not so much to be like, oh yeah, let's go put together this multi-million dollar business and buy Ferraris and live in giant mobile homes with tread towers or something. I don't know. Something ridiculous like that, right? Like that's not the goal. Like sure that would be nice, but I think there's better assets to use money for than just that. Like go help people with it or something. I don't know. So that's not the goal first. The goal first is just to like use it and help people and do something with it, right? Do something good with it. So that's the purpose of it. Then the second that's the purpose for me for it. Then the other purpose, like how are you going to help people with this thing, right? So my thought or my goal, the direction that I'm going in with this is I just want to take all this experience, all this I guess kind of knowledge, because I've been doing coaching and teaching for the past, I don't know, it's been since that's most of my working experience if I think about it. So I've been doing that for a while, and I just want to take those things and I'll pass that on to other people and empower them in a way that they can make their lives better, right? Like, okay, you can use exercise to make your body better. You can use exercise to make yourself um, more rigid, less prone to injury, to make your abilities better, to be more capable, to run faster, jump higher, to enhance yourself. And it could enhance your life as well. So my thought is, yeah, let's go ahead and use exercise to do that, right? Like let's use that or use our exercise to do that in the lives of other people and, you know, see what good they can do with it. So that's kind of like where I'm at with it. Um, so we're gonna get a little salesy, I suppose. We'll just talk about not like super selling. I'm just gonna talk about like the product that I'm selling, like where I'm at with that. So the site itself, we don't have ebooks up yet, but ebooks are coming. But I want to sell courses, I want to sell ebooks, and I want to sell programs. And the reason I want to do this is because I think courses are a good way to handle some really like long-term complex stuff. And you can put it in a YouTube video, sure, and perhaps I will. Um, but I figure a course would be a better way to like handle that. So that's why I'm going with like courses. And it could be digestible. There's good stopping points. It just flows well, and I'm familiar with it because that's what I was doing at SIU. I was teaching courses. The other one is ebooks, and I think ebooks are a good way to just kind of like digest information, but it's also a good way for you to like keep it, have a physical copy, or I guess it's digital, but like you can keep it. It's yours, right? And I like that. I like that a lot. And then the programs are there for just people that want them. And it's like, hey, uh, I'm not going to coach for you, but like I'm not going to do like a one-on-one coaching for you unless you like really absolutely have to have it. And that's like, oh, okay, sure, maybe we'll talk about it. But for the most part, I would just much rather put together these programs that are just like answering. There's you have a problem, here's a solution, problem, solution, problem, solution. Because I think, programs can do that. Other than that, I just want to teach, you have coaches, and I'm not trying to diss coaches. I just feel like there are some coaches out there that just they haven't really put it all together, right? They don't see like the stimulus response issue. They don't see like they're just like go out there and work. And that is literally me when I started. And I took a lot of like knowledge and wisdom and patience of other people to teach me otherwise. But yeah, so that's where I'm at with that. And if you like the video, go ahead and give us a like and subscribe and hit all the bells and whistles and everything. But that's kind of where we're at for today. And yeah, stay tuned and I look forward to seeing everyone on the next one. Hope you enjoy it.